Waitress, Noelle Brooks, had perfected invisibility, gliding through the gilded corridors of the Langford Hotel with quiet precision, pouring champagne for patrons who never bothered to learn her name. When billionaire Edmund Langford strode into his restaurant, smile sharp as glass, he dangled humiliation, $100,000 if she served him in Mandarin. The dining room froze, phones rose, laughter skittered beneath crystal chandeliers, primed for the waitress to falter. Edmund Langford didn't know the woman balancing his water. She wasn't just another uniform. She was the daughter of a man whose legacy he'd taken and buried. Today, every sentence from her 9 polished languages would be the first fisher in his dominion. Before we continue, I'd love to hear where you're watching from. And if you're into stories like this, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. Evening air carried perfume and old Bordeaux as Noelle weaved between rooftop tables. 28 floors above Manhattan's clamor, conversations murmured in 6 languages. Chandeliers cast warm honey over linen, skyline glittering past wall-to-wall glass. At 29, she moved with practiced grace, invisible until someone needed refills. A tray floated on her palm, dark hair pinned neat, white blouse crisp. 2 years at this job since her world collapsed. Enough pay for rent and her mother's treatments. Barely. She learned to drift like a shadow, unseen, which the wealthy preferred from staff. "Excuse me, miss," a woman at table 7 called. Noelle approached, pleasant smile steady. "Yes, ma'am. How may I help?" Draped in pearls, the woman conferred in swift French, then asked whether the duck was classic or chef-tweaked. Noelle answered fluently, pronunciation clean, detail precise. Eyebrows rose. The women exchanged a look, then nodded curtly. Noelle took their order and slipped away, aware how competence could feel like intrusion to certain palates. At the service stand, Lila Chen, the 43-year-old manager with hawk's eyes, reviewed seating charts, posture composed, voice always measured. Big night," Lila murmured. "Mr. Langford is dining with investors." Noelle's hands paused on folded napkins. Edmund Langford. The owner rarely descended to his own restaurant, preferring penthouse deals or overseas jets. "I'll ensure we run smoothly," Noelle said. Lila's look sharpened. "He's difficult. Don't take anything personally." Before Noelle replied, a ripple crossed the room. Conversations thinned to threads. The pianist stumbled, then recovered. Edmund Langford arrived with 4 bodyguards and a half-dozen power suits. 52, tall, silver hair slicked, smile never reaching his eyes. British-born, American by ambition, allergic to the word no. "Table 12, he declared. "An order, not a request." The hostess scrambled, displacing a reserved party. Edmund sat like he owned oxygen, which, here, he nearly did. Noelle drew the assignment. She approached with water and menus. "Good evening, Mr. Langford. Welcome." His eyes skimmed her, barely registering. "Water, no ice. Tell the kitchen the chef personally oversees my meal. No assembly line tonight." "Of course, sir." She poured evenly. A guest chuckled. "Still demanding perfection, Edmund?" "Why settle?" he said, British cadence burnished with American snap. "Empires aren't built on mediocrity." He flicked a hand. "That's all." She retreated, the old invisibility shawling her shoulders. This was the life she accepted. Rather, the life that cornered her after her father died, after the university said without his income her scholarship wouldn't stretch, after envelopes arrived demanding payment for her mother's care. The evening found its tempo. Noelle flowed table to table, orders, plates, refills. At 9, diplomats murmured in French about trade agreements. She understood every clause. Face a polite mask. Edmund's voice sliced the air. A waitress speaking French. "What's next, Sanskrit?" Heads turned. His table went silent, smirks primed. Noelle realized he'd caught her answering the diplomats in their language. "Apologies if I overstepped, sir," she said evenly. "No apology," Edmund projected, performing. "Just curious. Where did a waitress learn French? Community college? YouTube?" Uneasy laughter rippled. The diplomat looked away. Contradicting Edmund here was expensive. Heat threaded Noelle's chest. Her face stayed calm. Her father's voice returned. "Respect isn't granted, it's carried." "Picked it up over the years," she said simply. "Anything else for your table?" Edmund leaned back, savoring the theater, as neighboring tables tuned in. After-dinner entertainment, $50 if staff spells entrepreneur. A busser stared at his shoes. The hostess fused with her screen. Edmund laughed. Come now, free money. He aimed the spotlight back at Noelle. You, feeling lucky? Lila appeared at his elbow. Mr. Langford, perhaps let's focus on your dining experience. The chef prepared something special. He waved her off, grinning. His eyes sharpened on Noelle. Better idea, $100,000 if you serve me in Mandarin. Think you can manage that? Sound died. Even the piano paused. The number hovered, challenge mixed with insult. Noelle met his gaze, steady. He expected refusal or failure, either proved his point about place. Her mind raced. 100,000 covered months of treatment, maybe part-time classes. But deeper, a steadier ember glowed. Memories of standing beside her father at the United Nations, watching him bridge conflicts with tone and empathy. She could take his money or reclaim something larger than a check. Ankh, Noelle, Lila whispered, only for her. Don't engage. He does this. It's not worth your job. Noelle nodded, eyes never leaving Edmund. Certainty radiated from him. He believed he'd cornered a prop for his favorite show. I'll consider your generous offer, Mr. Langford, she said. For now, tonight's specials? His smirk hitch-stuttered. He'd expected capitulation or defiance, not poise. Fine. Make it quick. Noelle described each dish with crisp professionalism, took the orders, and stepped away, feeling his gaze recalibrate. The shift passed in a blur. Food, smiles, invisible tread. But inside, something aligned. He'd meant to shrink her. Instead, he activated her. Midnight, she rode the subway to Queens. Marble swapped for cracked sidewalks, truffled air for bodega fry smoke. 3 flights up, she locked her small apartment, clean, carefully kept. Books in many tongues lined cheap shelving. On the table, a photo of her father at the UN, smiling, proud. She sat, drew a dusty notebook, pages crowded with notes. Arabic conjugations, Mandarin characters annotated with tones, Swahili phrases, Russian structure, years of joy abandoned when calamity struck. Fingertips traced familiar scrawl. The university's midnight lights returned. So did her father's encouragement. She'd wanted to build bridges with words like him. Her phone waited by the photo. She opened a folder labeled Dad. Dozens of his audio recordings, lessons, encouragements, stories from interpretation rooms. She pressed play on one called For Doubt. His voice filled the apartment, warm, steady, despite 3 years of silence since she'd last heard it breathe. Noelle, my brilliant girl. If words confound nations, imagine your voice. Your gift isn't just language, it's listening, rarer than you think. You don't translate sentences, you translate hearts. Tears gathered. He'd died in a senseless accident, a days before her degree horror. With him, vanished the support her future relied on. She wiped her eyes, stood before the door mirror. The same face Edmund dismissed. But behind it, 9 fluent languages, and her father's teachings on dignity, compassion, attunement. She whispered a classical Mandarin line on patience and justice. Tonal contour exact, meaning layered. Determination looked back, clearer than grief. He'd tossed a mocking gauntlet. She'd answer on her terms. Money mattered. But truth had seniority. For her father's memory, for anyone dismissed by surfaces, for herself. To prove she hadn't lost everything when scaffolding collapsed. Tomorrow, she'd return. When the moment opened, she would speak. No spectacle, just precision. Morning leaked into narrow Queens streets as Noelle readied for her shift. Fitful sleep behind her. She ironed her blouse until creases vanished. Shoes shone mirror bright. On the subway, another recording played. Sophomore year, after a regional linguistics win. I'm proud, he'd said. Remember, language builds bridges, never fences. She arrived 45 minutes early. Daylight bleached glamour to utility. The crew prepped stations. Lila scanned reservations. You're early. Wanted to be ready, Noelle said. I saw Mr. Langford has a private breakfast. Lila's brows lifted. Volunteering to serve? If acceptable. A long pause. Lila weighed the risks. Last night was unpleasant. Are you sure? I'm sure. Something softened in Lila. Respect, perhaps. All right, but be careful. He doesn't forgive public embarrassment. I'm not planning anything, Noelle said. I'm doing my job. 2 hours later, Edmund arrived with 3 tailored suits, investors by posture and watches. They settled in the corner with panoramic views. Noelle approached with water and menus, adrenaline calmly leashed. Edmund barely looked up. Black coffee, eggs Benedict with smoked salmon. Replace hollandaise, lighter, no butter bombs. She noted it down, then repeated the order in formal Mandarin. Tones clean, register precisely, business appropriate. Edmund's head snapped. One associate, gray-templed, understood, eyes sharpening. What was that? Edmund demanded. Confirming, sir, she said in English. Smoked salmon Benedict, lighter sauce. You spoke Chinese. Not a question. Yes, sir. You offered 100,000 if I served you in Mandarin, demonstrating that I can. Silence clasped the table. He recovered with a smirk. Parroting phrases isn't serving. I said serve me, not wind-up mimicry. Noelle didn't flinch. She wrote the order in Mandarin characters, precise strokes, balanced radicals, and offered it to the gray-templed associate. Accurate? She asked in Mandarin, then in English. He examined, genuinely impressed. So. Perfect, he said. Characters are excellent. Where did you study? Edmund cut in, irritated. Enough lessons. Bring the food. In the kitchen, the chef blinked at the ticket. What's this? Mr. Langford's order, Noelle said. Same content, he chuckled, shaking his head. Always full of surprises, Noelle. Waiting, Lila appeared. That was bold. That was honest, Noelle said. He looked unsettled. He rarely does, Lila replied. There's more to you than you've let on. Everyone has chapters they don't read aloud at work. Breakfast service glided. Edmund ate in tightened silence, while small talk tried and failed. Clearing plates, Edmund stopped her. Where did you actually learn Mandarin? The edge in his voice dulled to curiosity with teeth. My father was a translator, she said. He believed in the power of language. He passed 3 years ago. A flicker, discomfort, then gone. Languages don't change your station. Noelle gathered plates without reply. As she turned, an associate murmured, That was unnecessarily harsh, even for you. Edmund shifted topics to quarterly targets. The morning stretched taut. Word of the Mandarin exchange threaded through staff whispers. Noelle kept her head down, but invisibility's cloak suddenly fit imperfectly. On her break, she stepped outside. Horns, construction, subway rumble folding around her. Near the service entrance, she saw a missed call. Dr. Farid Hassan, her Columbia mentor. He'd welcomed her energy before everything imploded. She returned the call. Noelle, he answered warmly. I've been thinking about you. How are you? Managing, she said. He asked about her unfinished paper, Language as Empathy's Bridge, 3/4 done before tragedy. It was brilliant, he said. Your work on multilingual communication and conflict resolution was ahead of its time. Thank you. Maybe someday I'll finish. I hope so. Voices like yours matter. Truly, are you all right? She looked at the towering hotel. Wealth and power she moved through like a ghost. I'm getting by. If you need anything. I know. Thank you. She hung up, old dreams stirring. Her father's death stole more than presents. It confiscated a future mid-sentence. That evening, prepping dinner shift, she overheard near the supply closet. Did you hear? Noelle spoke Mandarin to Langford. No way. Wrote the ticket in characters too. She passed without reacting. Let them talk. It changed nothing, except it had. The air around her felt subtly rerouted. At 6, Marco, the young waiter, fumbled with a guest whose English was thin. Frustration rose, an allergy explanation tangled. Panic edged Marco's eyes. Noelle recognized the language immediately. Arabic. May I help? She asked. Please, he breathed. She addressed the guest in fluent Arabic, matching his regional cadence. Relief washed the guest's face. He described a severe shellfish allergy. Noelle translated for Marco, who sprinted kitchenward. The guest thanked her profusely. She assured him they'd handle it. Turning, she found Edmund 10 feet away, watching. Their eyes met. His expression had changed, less dismissive, more calculating. That was Arabic. Yes, sir. So, Mandarin and Arabic, he said slowly, tasting the scope. What else? She could have listed them: French, Spanish, Russian, Swahili, Portuguese, Italian, 9 total, each learned with love, sharpened by life. She withheld the inventory. Enough to help when needed, she replied. Who are you really? Noelle Brooks, server. No one with that command waits tables by choice. It stung because truth nipped at it. Life detours, she said, unblinking. He typed something into his phone. My assistant will look into your background. I dislike mysteries on my property. Cold weight settled in her gut. Feel free, she said evenly. I have nothing to hide. He left, threat humming in his wake. She finished her shift, unease shadowing every step. She'd wanted dignity, not attention, but attention had found her, and it charged interest. That night, insomnia. Edmund's I don't like mysteries replayed. What would surface? Academic records, her father's UN work, her near PhD trajectory before collapse. She opened her laptop to old files, photos, papers, conference decks. A life paused. In a folder labeled Dad's Work, she found UN documents she'd saved. A multilingual AI protocol, dated months before the crash. She'd never lingered on it. Now a signature at the bottom seized her breath. Edmund Langford. Why would Edmund be tied to a UN language project? His company did tech, yes, but translation tech. Nothing she knew said so officially. She pulled another document, then another. A pattern emerged: language and communication initiatives, each with a Langford tech footprint, her father adjacent. He'd never mentioned Edmund directly, at least she didn't remember. Were these coincidences or coordinates? Had Edmund recognized something in her he'd hoped she wouldn't recognize in him? The clock read 3. In hours, she'd return to a dining room where Edmund no longer underestimated her. She had no idea what that meant. She closed the laptop, breathing shallow, then steady. Whatever line she crossed, it wasn't reversible. The question was whether she'd revealed too little or too much. She woke with a start near dawn, the laptop still warm against her ribs. Truth connects, lies divide, her father used to say. She'd told truths yesterday about speech, skill, dignity, and discovered newer ones that rattled. Today, she'd carry both, steady as crystal. Back on the floor, noon crowd thinning, she felt Edmund's scrutiny like stage lights. Staff whispers eddied, then thinned. Lila's gaze met hers. Warning and belief braided together. Noelle centered her breathing, letting habit reclaim her muscles. Plates, pores, posture. Each movement a decision to remain unshaken. Evening reservations came thick and glittering. Investor dinner, a PR showcase, cameras discreet yet everywhere. Lila briefed the team. No delays, no improvisation, perfection as policy. Noelle ironed fresh linens, reset cutlery angles, counted wine keys. Control what's yours, she told herself. Let the rest try its best. Oh, backstage, a hostess whispered. He requested you specifically. Noelle smoothed her apron. If Edmund had a plan, she'd have presence. Crowds flowed in. Suits, cocktail silk, watch faces like tiny moons. Video crews pretended to be furniture. She checked water carafes and breathed. Then she walked toward the center. Edmund occupied the brightest table, storybook king among courtiers. A dozen guests, Chinese investors, a Russian partner, representatives from a Middle Eastern fund. Noelle approached with menus and water, every step measured. Edmund's eyes gleamed like a trap left open on purpose. Perfect timing, he said. The cameras noticed. I was telling our guests about the remarkable diversity of our staff, he announced, syrupy. Skin prickling, Noelle distributed menus, poured water, checked glasses. Journalists pivoted lenses toward her, sensing a beat. The room's hum pulled taut, a violin string. Edmund let an expectant silence bloom, then smiled wider. I made a generous offer the other night, he said louder. $100,000 if Ms. Brooks served me in Mandarin. A pause, forks stilled. Tonight, with esteemed witnesses, let's see the truth. His smirk invited failure, minimized success in advance. Noelle exhaled once, low, and lifted the moment. She addressed the Chinese investors in polished Mandarin, formal register tuned to elders, idioms appropriately seasonal. She described specials, asked preferences, answered sourcing questions. Hearing an inland cadence, she shifted dialect gracefully. A silver-haired woman brightened at the courtesy. Noelle took notes without breaking rhythm, tone respectful, confident, exact. One investor smiled. "Your accent is unusually refined. Where did you study?" Noelle answered, succinctly. "A translator father, early childhood instruction, a life listening." Edmund's smirk thinned. A Russian guest murmured, off-mic amusement. "Her Mandarin's better than yours, Edmund." Nervous chuckles fluttered. Edmund's jaw tightened. Control slipped like a silk knot. "Och, anyone can memorize," Edmund snapped. "Try Arabic. Speak to our Middle Eastern friends." Noelle inclined her head, turned, and greeted the fund representatives in formal Arabic, voice warm, cadence respectful. A brief, apt verse about dignity and truth threaded her welcome. Relief and delight opened their faces. Conversation flowed effortlessly. They asked origins of her phrasing. She explained her father's UN work and the multilingual echo of her childhood. Orders were taken, allergies clarified, questions about ingredients resolved. Phones lifted across the room, journalists captured angles. Noelle's steady profile, Edmund's pinched smile. Laughter softened elsewhere, focus narrowing to this table. "Enough," Edmund cracked, brittle. A French guest asked, "Parlez-vous français?" Noelle answered in Parisian tones, then, catching a Lyonnaise lilt, shifted delicately. Someone called for Spanish. She obliged, Castilian crisp. Another requested Russian. Her consonants landed clean. Swahili followed, and she greeted an entrepreneur nearby with practiced joy. The restaurant transformed. Part service, part revelation. Noelle moved language to language, like stepping stones across a dark river, never once wetting her shoes. The room leaned closer, as if proximity could confer fluency. Edmund's color deepened, the evening spotlight slipping off his shoulders onto hers, where it fit unexpectedly well. "Aye, enough circus," he barked. "Dinner, not a sideshow." A hush rebuked him. He yanked a checkbook, scrawled, tore, slapped it down. 100,000 as promised. But first, prove this. From his briefcase, he slid a document toward her. "Translate it now, accurately, publicly, then you can collect." She lifted the pages. A rare, specialized Mandarin register, diplomatic academic hybrid, dense with AI communication theory, translation protocols, neural context alignment. And there, in familiar slanted handwriting along the margins, her father's notes. Her pulse flared. This wasn't random. Edmund watched her realize. He liked traps that revealed what people protected. "Problem," he said, feigning innocence. "Can't read after all?" She could translate every clause. She'd helped draft portions before the crash. Doing so would reveal recognition. Another vulnerability. The room held its breath. Noelle placed the document on a folded linen, steadied her voice, and began translating into clear, exact English. She rendered the nuanced vocabulary, culture-layered semantics, emotional valence modeling, systems designed to translate not only lexis, but context and care. As she moved deeper, absence whistled. Key sections missing. Ethics frameworks, safeguards, deliberate constraints, her father's central insistences. Where his signature should confirm authorship, a Langford Tech patent application sat crowning the theft. Her voice caught, then found itself. She finished the final page, set it down, and lifted her eyes. "Translation completed," she said quietly. "But the document is incomplete. Entire sections are missing." Edmund's glare sharpened. "Irrelevant. You were asked to translate, not annotate." "Noting omissions is part of accuracy," she replied. The original research included robust ethical guidelines, ensuring the technology served people, not just profit. "They aren't here." Edmund's tone cooled to threat. "And how would you know?" The attention in the room focused like sunlight through glass. Noelle stood at the edge, where fear becomes decision, and stepped forward. "Because my father wrote it," she said evenly. "Andre Brooks, United Nations interpreter and researcher, this was his work." Silence deepened. Even ice in glasses seemed to stop. Edmund's face flickered. Surprise, then fury, lacquered over. "Your father consulted. We funded. Intellectual property is ours. Funding doesn't erase authorship, she answered, nor does it license removing guardrails. A journalist stood, camera still rolling, whispers gathered mass. The Chinese investors' expressions turned grave. They understood the stakes. Edmund surged to his feet. Dinner's over, out. But power had already migrated. Lila materialized beside Noelle, presence unflustered. Take your break, she said softly. I'll manage. Noelle nodded and left the check untouched. Backstage, the quiet hit like cool water. She sat. Trembling arrived late, seizing muscles previously occupied by composure. She had confronted Edmund in front of those with money, microphones, and receipts. Whatever came next would be different. She inhaled, exhaled, counted through shaking. The door opened. Lila slipped in, closing it firmly. She sat without speaking, offering steadiness instead of advice. I'm probably fired, Noelle said, voice frayed. Maybe not, Lila said. But courage leaves a trail. Today, it led people somewhere they needed to look. Noelle's laugh cracked, half sob. Courage or foolishness? I need this job, she whispered. Did you mean it? Lila asked. All of it? Every word, Noelle said. I found Edmund's signature on Dad's files last night. Didn't realize the scope until now. Lila's gaze shifted, weighing history. I worked at Langford Tech, she said carefully. PR, 5 years ago. I left over an ethics mess. Edmund acquired a startup, claimed clean rights. Founders said otherwise, work taken, patents refiled under his name. Noelle's throat tightened. What happened? Settled quietly. NDA chokehold. I couldn't keep spinning theft into narrative, Lila said. I resigned, slept better. If your father's work was taken similarly, you deserve the truth. Noelle stared at her hands. How do I prove anything? It's been 3 years. I'm a server with rent due and a mother who needs treatment. Lila's voice sharpened. You're a linguist, child of a respected researcher. Don't shrink. Tears finally loosened. Thank you. A knock interrupted. A woman with quick eyes and notebook slipped in. Clara Wells, mid-30s, professional edges softened by purpose. I'm sorry to intrude, she said. May we talk, Noelle? Lila nodded permission and stayed seated, unthreatened. Clara closed the door, switched off the recorder's standby light. That was extraordinary, Clara said. Not only your fluency, your poise, and what you exposed about that document. It could be significant. It won't matter, Noelle murmured. He's a billionaire. I'm nobody. You told a verifiable truth in public, Clara said. That matters. I write for the Times. Accountability is my beat. If you'll talk, really talk, I'd like to help you tell this story. Why help me? Noelle asked, suspicion thin but present. I've tracked Edmund for years, Clara said. He's slipperier than paperweights. Tonight, you handed me a thread. Also, what he tried to do to you was cruel. Light disinfects. If I do this, I could lose everything. Job, references, safety. Maybe, Clara said gently. Or maybe you'll gain what you're owed. Recognition, justice, your father's name where it belongs. The weight of the choice pressed. Noelle thought of bills, rent, and the recordings labeled Dad. She lifted her chin. I have files, she said. Research notes, audio recordings. His voice describes the framework, dates, collaborators. Clara's eyes brightened. That's the spine we need. Would you share them? Noelle opened her bag, produced a small USB drive she'd started carrying since last night. She placed it on Clara's notebook without trembling. Ooh, it contains everything I have, audio, drafts, emails. Clara glanced at Lila. Lila gave a slight nod. Just in case, Noelle added. In case of what? If anything happens to me, or the originals. We'll mirror it immediately, Clara promised. Chain of custody, off-site. You won't be alone in this. From the dining room, voices swelled, then leveled. Lila's steady management smoothing chaos. He'll try to discredit you, Clara warned. Background checks, rumors, pressure. He already started, Noelle said. Let him look. There's nothing I'm ashamed of. Lila's mouth tilted, pride in the austerest form. We'll also need corroborating sources. Clara tapped her pen. Former colleagues of your father, project references, any email headers connecting Langford Tech, I'll file records requests. You preserve everything, keep logs, export metadata. Noelle nodded. I can annotate timelines. Lila added, I know 2 ex-founders from Edmund's acquisition. They won't violate NDAs, but they remember. They can describe patterns, Clara said. Patterns are admissible scaffolding for narrative, and sometimes for court. She slipped the drive into a padded sleeve. I'll be discreet. If Edmund pressures the paper, we'll have legal eyes on it within minutes. Noelle exhaled slowly. Resolve replaced adrenaline with something steadier. They rose. Clara squeezed Noelle's shoulder once. Professional solidarity, not pity, and left through the staff corridor. Lila looked at Noelle. Whatever you choose, I'm here. I should finish the shift, Noelle said. Finish it, Lila agreed. On your terms. Noelle washed her face, re-knotted her apron, then returned to light. Out front, the atmosphere had cooled from spectacle to watchfulness. Some guests offered small nods. Others suddenly found their menus fascinating. Edmund's table had splintered into smaller conversations, unease pricking their edges. Noelle resumed service, movements precise, voice level. She refused to shrink, refused to perform too. Just competence, unflinching. When she approached Edmund for the check, he spoke without looking up. You've made a mistake. By doing my job, she asked. By confusing attention with leverage, he said. Spotlights burn fast. Truth lasts longer, she said. His smirk was thinner now, rebar showing beneath marble. We'll see, he murmured. He signed, stood, and left with his entourage, cameras trailing like obedient dogs. The room exhaled. Noelle cleared glassware, logged comps, confirmed the allergy guest was satisfied and safe. A diplomat from Table 9 pressed a card into her palm. If you need an introduction, he said in precise English. She tucked the card away. After close, staff clustered around her. Questions, congratulations, quiet awe. Noelle answered gently where she could, deflected where she needed. The check still sat in the office safe. She hadn't considered cashing it. Some money arrives poisoned. She took home only her wages and tips. Queens again, stairs, lock, exhale. She duplicated her father's folder to another drive, labeled it plainly, hid it in a flour tin. She wrote a brief log, dates, times, interactions. When sleep came, it was merciful and dreamless. A white sheet pulled over a crowded, chattering day. Morning cracked open with pale light and the rumble of delivery trucks. She brewed coffee and replayed a short recording, her father laughing after she nailed a tongue twister in 3 languages. You hear people, kiddo, he'd said. Keep listening. She pocketed courage, like a coin, and headed in. By lunch, 2 men in expensive quiet asked for Lila, then for Noelle, Langford's legal. They smiled professionally, requested a brief talk. In the office, they implied defamation risk, suggested returning proprietary materials, mentioned misunderstandings about authorship. Noelle took notes, said nothing substantive, asked for communications in writing only. When they left, Lila locked the door and leaned on it a second. Documentation always, she said. You handled that perfectly. Noelle forwarded Clara a summary. We increase frequency now, Clara texted back. Don't meet anyone alone who says they're a friend of the family. Noelle smiled despite herself. Dinner service approached with storm scent. Reservations heavy again, whispers heavier. Edmund wouldn't return this quickly, she guessed. But his reach traveled. Noelle stacked side plates, polished silver, reset glassware. The pianist worked through mellow standards. She imagined words like anchors, evidence, metadata, corroboration. Facts would hold, while narratives wrestled. At table 6, the allergy guest returned, waved with warm thanks, brought a friend who spoke limited English. Noelle greeted him in his language, smoothing the evening's edges before trouble existed. Around them, the room's temperature rose, then eased. Hospitality, at its best, is language made edible, safety carried on plates. Halfway through the rush, a familiar figure appeared. Clara, dressed appropriately as a guest, camera tucked away. She dined quietly, texting Noelle only once. Received the files, mirrored, and backed up, hearing from 2 sources. Noelle sent a tiny thumbs up, then refilled waters, took orders, and held the line. Near closing, a courier arrived asking for Noelle, delivery requiring her signature. She paused, read the label, Langford Tech Legal. Lila took it, logged chain of custody, and stored it unopened. Lawyer eyes first, she said. Noelle breathed. Agreed. She wiped down a quiet corner, methodical movement forgiving a day's adrenaline. After midnight, Clara waited outside near the service entrance, breath ghosting. We have confirmation, she said softly. Emails placing Langford Tech inside the UN project earlier than public filings, references to a draft containing ethics sections. 2 former staffers describe similar omissions in other filings. Noelle's shoulders eased a fraction. Next, we verify metadata on your father's audio, Clara continued. Dates, device IDs, room signatures. If he references meeting attendees, we corroborate schedules. I can transcribe and timestamp, Noelle said. Do that, Clara nodded. And rest when you can. Burnout helps the people you're fighting, not you. Noelle returned to her apartment and opened the first audio, his voice methodically outlining cultural context layers. She typed, marked hesitations, cross-referenced calendar dates. She noted when a chair scraped, when a pen clicked, details that moor truth. At 3, she stopped, exported, backed up, labeled clearly, and finally slept. By late morning, social media nibbled at the story. Short clips from diners, captions arguing about class, power, spectacle. A blog mentioned the polyglot server and Langford's check stunt. Noelle ignored the noise, focusing on the transcript. She added footnotes, sources, and a simple index. Boring wins courtrooms. The envelope from Langford Legal arrived via counsel. Cease and desist, dressing itself as cordiality, alleging misappropriation and reputational harm. Clara's legal loop replied, preservation demands, anti-slap warnings, reminders about truth as defense. Lila logged every timestamp. Noelle returned to work, shoulders straight, apron tied, not brittle, merely braced. The restaurant watched her now with something like respect. The allergy guest sent dessert to the staff. Diplomats left generous tips. A server whispered, "You made me want to study again." "Do it," Noelle said, half smiling. "Start with what's hard." She collected plates, refolded napkins, rebuilt the quiet center. Near the bar, a man introduced himself as an investor from Edmund's table, apologetic, careful. "If anyone asks, I was never here," he said. He described a pitch deck predating public filings, ethics slide missing. Clara later matched his details to a leaked version. Patterns layered until they resembled architecture. Noelle's mother called that night, voice tired but teasing. "Heard you made the news." "A little," Noelle said, leaving out landmines. "You sound strong," her mother added. "Your father would be aggravatingly proud." Laughter short-circuited tears. "Rest, Ma," Noelle said. "I'm on my way this weekend." Promises steadied them. Back at the hotel, Lila adjusted schedules to reduce exposure without cutting hours. "I'm not hiding you," she said. "I'm shielding the restaurant from spectacle." "Understood," Noelle replied. A good manager is a translator too, converting chaos into calendars. They shared a quick, fierce nod and returned to tasks. The Times assigned a second editor. Clara texted, "We'll run when ready, not when rushed." Noelle appreciated the restraint. Speed flatters crisis. Accuracy undresses it. She double-checked timestamps, corrected a tone mark in a Mandarin citation, flagged a Russian idiom's cultural weight. Detail is sometimes the only apology truth needs. Edmund resurfaced on a morning show. Polished contrition, philanthropic talking points, spin suggesting he'd rewarded talent generously and championed diversity. Noelle watched silent, noting deflections, cataloging claims against her documents. Clara messaged, "We'll counter with receipts." Lila's only comment, "He's nervous." Noelle poured coffee and answered with a quiet, "Good." That evening brought a subtle shift. Regulars greeted her by name. A few new guests spoke slowly, respectfully, like language novices trying not to offend grammar. Noelle met them there, easing their efforts without applause. Service is attention, married to action. She kept marrying them until the lights dimmed. Back home, she color-coded the timeline. UN meetings, Langford Tech filings, her father's audio, Clara's sources, Lila's ex-founder contacts. She added a slender thread, the night Edmund made the bet, how humiliation was weaponized and backfired. Narrative skeletons sometimes need one memorable rib to hold everything upright. A message pinged from Dr. Hassan. If you decide to return, I can help with re-entry logistics and grants. Noelle stared at the screen. Grief and possibility can coexist. They often do. Thank you, she typed. I'm not ready yet, but I plan to be. He sent back a star. Clara called. We're close, she said. Still verifying a chain between margin notes and Langford's patent edits. Handwriting analysis suggests match to your father's drafts. Noelle's breath snagged. We move when the ground is stone, Clara added. I won't strand you on sand. I trust you, Noelle said, surprised. Inside the restaurant, a quiet celebration bloomed. Someone brought cupcakes. The kitchen sent out a family meal with extra greens. Lila raised a paper cup. To doing the right thing, the long way. Noelle lifted hers. The staff clinked and laughed softly. Even endurance deserves a toast now and then. And another courier, this time flowers with a lawyerly note. Best wishes. Lila snorted, moved the bouquet to the locker room. No sense putting temptations in public view. Noelle taped the card into her logbook as an exhibit. Paper remembers what nerves forget. Then she headed back to Polish stemware. A slow night finally arrived. Noelle took a corner table's order in Italian, checked on the pianist's set list, guided a tourist couple through the specials without condescension. The skyline beyond the glass looked less like a horizon and more like a ledger. Columns rising, entries balancing, nothing erased. Clara texted, "We'll preview with standards tomorrow. If they balk, we escalate." Noelle closed her eyes, relief and dread wrestling. "Understood," she replied. She folded napkins into neat, precise fans. Hands that can conjugate verbs beautifully can also make linen look like patience. Both are forms of speaking plainly. Later, she phoned her mother again. "If this goes public, things might get noisy." "Noise doesn't scare me," her mother said. "Silence does. Your father hated silence used as cover." Noelle smiled through the ache. "Then I'll be loud with paperwork." "That's my girl," her mother said, sounding stronger. On the train home, she reread her father's note. "You translate hearts." She thought about what translation really costs. The courage to say precisely what was meant, not what's easy. She made a small vow, to keep hearing even those who had never learned to hear her back. Night stretched, but her mind refused to unspool. She drafted a brief statement, just in case, centered on gratitude, facts, and respect for due process. No heroics, no daggers. The truth rarely needs a sword. It needs daylight and witnesses. She saved it, dated it, and closed the lid. The next afternoon, legal replied with a softened tone. Requests for dialogue, questions framed as collaboration. Clara's counsel countered. Independent oversight, document review, no gag agreements. Lila scheduled staff, so Noelle wouldn't be cornered anywhere. Boundaries, like punctuation, keep dangerous run-ons from swallowing the sense of a sentence. A former UN colleague of her father's confirmed a draft containing ethics sections and remembered Edmund attending one meeting as industry observer, not research lead. Calendar invites corroborated. Clara's editor greenlit conditional publication. "One more nail," Clara said. "Then we build the door." Noelle found herself grinning, brief and real. She printed her timeline, highlighted crosspoints, and packed a clean copy into a labeled folder. On top, she placed a photo, her father at a microphone, eyes kind, posture alert. "We're almost there," she told the picture. The apartment held her words like vows, quiet, unshowy, unbreakable. Back at the restaurant, she handed Clara a second drive, redundant, mirrored, verified. "This has everything. Audio, notes, correspondence," she said. "Just in case." Clara slid it into a protective sleeve, nodding. Noelle's fingers lingered a heartbeat longer than necessary, then released. Some truths you carry, others you let travel. Clara's expression turned sober. "Smart move. I'll keep this secure." She hesitated. "Edmund won't strike openly. He's too calculating. But he'll try to smear you." "I've been dismissed my whole life just for existing," Noelle said softly. "At least this time, it's for telling the truth." After Clara left, Noelle sat alone in the staff room. Shift technically over, body too heavy to stand. Her phone buzzed. Dr. Farid Hassan. "Saw a video from the Langford. Was that you?" Call me. Of course, the clips were spreading already. She dialed back, bracing herself. Noelle, Dr. Hassan said, warmth under worry. What happened? She poured everything out, the bet, the languages, the document with her father's notes, the realization his research had been stripped and claimed. When she finished, silence threaded the line while he weighed each jagged piece. I should tell you, he said carefully. I knew your father, not closely, but at conferences. He mentioned a communications project bankrolled by a tech firm. He worried about their intentions, whether they'd twist his work. The words settled like sandbags, heavy but stabilizing. Worried how? Noelle asked. He felt they wanted commercialization over humanity, proprietary systems, licensing toll booths. He wanted refugees, immigrants, patients to be understood. Noelle's grip tightened. Did he name the company? Not outright, Hassan said, pausing. But from what you've described, I believe he meant Edmund Langford. Why didn't you tell me sooner? She asked. I didn't connect it until tonight, he said. After your father died, I assumed it all stalled out. But if Edmund patented his work and amputated the ethics, that's not just wrong, it's theft. Proving it will take more. Like what? Published papers, dated drafts, emails showing intent and authorship, Hassan said. Noelle, this gets complicated. Edmund has lawyers and stamina. Am I ready? She whispered. I don't know, but I can't let my father's work be erased. Then I'll help, he promised. When the call ended, Noelle finally stood, folded her uniform with ritual neatness, and locked it in her locker. She didn't know if she'd return tomorrow. On the subway home, she waited for regret to bloom. Instead, clarity settled. She'd stopped hiding. Whatever followed, she'd met herself. Back in her apartment, she opened the laptop and lined up every file, research notes, audio, emails, decks. Proof Andre Brooks had been building multilingual AI years before Langford Tech's headlines. She hit play on another recording. Her father's voice warmed the room, steadying her hands as she sorted. Ost. Language should be a bridge, Noelle, he said. This technology could connect millions if we respect the people it serves. I'm worried. Partners keep saying market share, licensing. He sighed in the audio. Some things matter more than profit. Tears blurred her spreadsheet. He had seen this coming. She resumed. If anything happens to me, his voice continued, know where everything lives. I kept backups, including the ethics framework, filed in UN archives under project designation LB 20047. Remember that, kiddo, LB 2047. Noelle stopped breathing. A breadcrumb, official records, the ghost of the missing heart. She texted Hassan. He cites UN archives, project LB 247. Can you help retrieve? Reply arrived fast. I'll reach out at once. This could be the keystone. Noelle looked around her small place. Life built from rubble. Tomorrow would tilt again. Edmund would attack credibility. She welcomed daylight. Outside, the city droned. Somewhere, Edmund plotted. Somewhere, Clara wrote. Noelle opened her father's photo and whispered, I'll finish what you started. I'll put your name where it belongs. He won't rewrite our history. She pressed play on a posted clip, herself composed, Edmund fraying. Comments exploded. Who is she? Absolute masterclass. Did she say he stole her dad's work? Someone investigate. Noelle shut the laptop. The story was already sprinting. Her job now was making sure truth outran spin. She lay back, exhausted and sleepless, yet certain she'd honored him. Morning would deliver consequences. Tonight, she let enough be enough. 3 days later, while reviewing documents with Dr. Hassan over video, her phone flashed, unknown. Ms. Brooks, a clipped voice said, Mr. Langford invites you to dinner tomorrow at 7, his residence. He wishes to apologize and discuss an opportunity. What? Opportunity? Noelle repeated. He's impressed by your fluency and wants to discuss sponsorship within our new AI communications division. The call ended. Hassan stared from her laptop, frowned deep. It's a trap. Or reconnaissance, Noelle said. I'll go, but with safeguards. She messaged Lila, who echoed the warning immediately. It's not contrition. It's a test, Lila said. If you go, record everything and set check-ins. The next evening, Noelle stood beneath a Tribeca tower of glass and steel. simple black slacks, white blouse, professional without theater. The doorman led her into a private elevator opening directly into power. The penthouse gleamed, museum catalog minimalism, floor-to-ceiling skyline, shelves mixing African masks, Chinese pottery, Grecian shards, cultures pinned like butterflies. Edmund emerged in casual luxury, smile practiced, eyes cold. "Noelle, thank you for coming. Let's clear the air." A champagne bucket waited. Bubbles postured. She accepted a glass, didn't sip. "Oh, I'll be blunt," he said. "You impressed me. I underestimated you." He leaned back. "Langford Tech is launching a communications platform. We need cultural nuance. Someone like you, chief linguistic consultant." Noelle held his gaze. "Why hire the woman who accused you of stealing her father's work?" Quote, "That accusation was emotional," he said crisply. "Your father consulted on a company-funded project. We own the IP. Standard practice. Where I'm from, authorship means something," she said. "Your signature on a patent doesn't relocate the genius." "He was compensated," Edmund said. "Was he?" Noelle asked. "Because after he died, nothing. Consultants don't receive royalties," Edmund snapped. "And yet you've banked millions on his algorithms." The temperature fell. He set the flute down harder than necessary. "Let's talk somewhere private." He ushered her into a wood-paneled study. Mahogany, leather, gravitas as costume, and closed the door like a verdict. "Here's honesty," he said, voice sharpening. "Those restaurant videos caused damage. Investors nervous, board agitated. I need resolution." He slid a thick folder. "Contract, signing bonus, generous salary, title. In exchange, you acknowledge your father's work belonged to Langford Tech. NDA, non-disparagement, waiver of future claims, clean, pauzo." Noelle scanned clauses, silence with benefits. "This isn't employment," she said. "It's a muzzle." "It benefits everyone," Edmund insisted. "Understand what you're up against. I can bury you in motions. One press release, and your credibility evaporates. Your journalist friend, one call, and that article disappears." "Clara won't scare," Noelle said. "Everyone should," he hissed, mask slipping. "You're a server with no money, no connections, and no proof. Your father's gone. Notes are circumstantial. I have patents, contracts, an undefeated legal team." Noelle's phone recorded in her pocket. Her check-in alarms ticked forward. That morning, Hassan's contacts had confirmed access to UN archives. LB2247 existed. Her father's full framework, ethics intact. Noelle kept her voice even. "You're right. I don't have your resources. I have something you discarded. The truth. And the spine to speak it." Color climbed Edmund's neck. "The truth?" he scoffed. "Your father was brilliant, yes, also naive. He believed language should be free. He ignored that innovation demands investment. Nothing is free." "So you erased his name," she said. "I acquired IP legally," he barked. "He signed contracts." "Did he sign away ethics?" she asked. "You can't run a business on idealism," Edmund snapped. "He wanted to give away multi-million-dollar tech. I built something real." Noelle stood. Her phone captured every syllable. "My father built a bridge. You built a toll booth." Edmund's control shattered. "Get out," he snarled, flinging his glass. Crystal shrapnel, champagne bleeding wallpaper. "You people think a few phrases make you equal," he raged. "Think you can walk into my world demanding respect. You're nothing." The study held the echo. Noelle didn't flinch. "By your measure, maybe," she answered in calm Mandarin. "But empires that stop listening collapse." She opened the door. In the hall, Edmund froze, rage curdling into dawning consequence. Noelle left, hand steady around the recording device in her pocket. In the elevator's mirrored hush, she finally exhaled. Tomorrow, his private voice would meet daylight, and the world could judge without the stage makeup. At 6 a.m., Clara's story went live. The polyglot server who exposed a billionaire's theft. Noelle woke to a detonation of notifications. Old classmates, her father's colleagues, strangers around the world. Clara braided threads. The dinner spectacle. Noelle's background. Andre's research. And the penthouse audio, crystalline and devastating. Edmund, on tape, removing ethics from Andre's draft. His slur, "You people," the tantrum. The internet did what it does at speed. Outlets syndicated, hashtags multiplied. Joser, bridge not toll, Jatcher's justice for Andre, Jiao Zhao's language connects. Lila called at 7, voice vibrating. Have you seen it? Investors are bailing, board convened emergency. By midday, Edmund faced cameras. Noelle watched with Clara from the safety of her apartment. All patents acquired legally, he recited. We respect every consultant, including the late Andre Brooks. A reporter shouted, in your own audio, you admit excising ethical sections. How is that lawful? He flinched. What? That recording was unauthorized and maybe inauthentic, he deflected. We're exploring legal remedies. Do you deny saying those words? I'm saying context was distorted. This is a personal attack by a disgruntled ex-employee seeking money. Ms. Brooks never worked for you, another reporter shot back. She refused your $100,000. The briefing degraded, answers brittle, contradictions stacking. Clara closed the laptop. He's finished publicly. Courts may still coddle him, but opinion turned. Will the law protect him? Noelle asked. Maybe, Clara said. But Hassan's UN source confirmed the archives. They show authorship and the ethics he amputated. That matters. Noelle's phone rang. Hassan. The UN Ethics Committee has opened an inquiry into LB 2047, he said. Langford Tech accepted international grants predicated on humanitarian deployment. If they diverted to pure commercial use after removing safeguards, it's not just miscrediting, it's fraud. Noelle gripped the counter. Then the work begins. Within 48 hours, regulators sniffed smoke. Anonymous tips, leaked emails, and Clara's piece braided into a single rope. Langford Tech's comms spun hard. The market shrugged. Noelle stayed small and methodical. Backups mirrored, notes dated, chain of custody logged. Truth, she reminded herself, prefers receipts to rhetoric. A subpoena landed. Former staffers surfaced through intermediaries, describing redlined ethics, rescoped intent, and commercial pivots that amputated safeguards. Hassan coordinated archival requests. Clara mapped timelines. Lila tightened workplace protocols. No unscheduled visitors, all deliveries logged, panic phrase shared. Solidarity didn't look dramatic. It looked organized. By dawn, cameras camped outside Langford Tech's headquarters. An aerial shot showed boxes carried to vans, agents in windbreakers, a CFO pretending composure. Noelle watched from her kitchen table, coffee cooling. She felt no triumph, only the surreal hum that follows an earthquake's first roll beneath your feet. 3 major investors issued statements. Ethical concerns, governance issues, reassessment of risk. The stock chart didn't drift, it fell. Meanwhile, Hassan texted, UN Vault confirms LB 2047 exists. Ethics appendix, authorship metadata, draft lineage. Noelle closed her eyes. Her father's missing heart wasn't missing. It had simply been hidden. That afternoon, Langford's comms framed it as overzealous compliance. Yet internal memos, time-stamped, suggested surgical edits. Pull the ethics ladder, patent the rungs. Clara's editor greenlit a follow-up. Receipts, voices, context. Noelle answered exactly. Nothing more, nothing less. Let the record speak, she thought. She would not shout. At the hotel, whispers softened into nods. A diplomat pressed another card into her palm. A tourist family sent dessert to the staff. For courage. Noelle logged the gestures, then returned to polishing stemware. Dignity, she'd learned, isn't applause. It's steadiness. A spine you carry room to room. A week later, Noelle walked the closed dining room, daylight flattening glamour into angles. She packed her locker, spare shoes, notebook, a pen her father had used to annotate idioms. At table 12's ghost, she paused. Here, he'd made the bet. Here she'd chosen the bridge over the toll. New ownership is imminent, Lila said, entering in jeans, softer than her manager's armor. They want to rename. Noelle looked around, mural-less walls waiting. Brooks Hall, she said. For Andre. Lila nodded. I'll propose it. The name felt right. Less victory than witness. A pressure mark where weight had been. Opportunities began to knock. Lectures, non-profit roles, ethical AI consultancies. Noelle listened, not dazzled. She'd built a life by surviving. Now she'd choose one by aligning. Hassan's email arrived. LB 24/7 authentication complete. Chain intact. Ethics appendix bears Andre's handwriting. Docket shows subsequent removal before corporate filings. The Times ran Clara's second piece. Not a takedown, a tribute. Colleagues described Andre's kindness, rigor, stubborn insistence that technology serve people first. Professors remembered Noelle's scholarship, then her disappearance after the accident. The story recalibrated attention, from spectacle to principle, from virality to the quiet labor behind it. On a morning show, Edmund reappeared, lacquered in contrition, rehearsing phrases about context and misunderstanding. Screens split to his audio. The ethics excision, the slur, the shattering crystal. The host's eyebrows said what the lawyers wouldn't. Noelle muted the sound and returned to annotating a footnote on tone sandhi. An envelope arrived. Langford Legal again. This time softened language asking for dialogue. Clara's counsel replied, independent review, no NDAs, restorative credit, and public correction of record. Noelle signed nothing. She had learned the difference between being heard and being handled. One builds bridges, the other builds cages. The UN Ethics Committee announced a formal inquiry, grant money awarded under humanitarian promises, deliverables reframed for commercialization, ethical guardrails removed without disclosure. Suddenly it wasn't just authorship and credit, it was fiduciary truth. Paperwork, the same thing that oppresses, can, when honest, protect what conscience alone cannot. Noelle visited the quiet hotel one last time before construction. Sawdust sweetened the air, blue tape drew futures. She trailed fingers across the host stand, remembered the night she'd been dared to be small. Some places you don't conquer, you outgrow. She left her staff pin under the register. Her mother's health improved. Better doctors, fewer deferred bills. Over soup, they laughed. Thin at first, then genuine. Your father would be insufferably proud, her mother teased. He'd start sentences with, my daughter, then never finish. Noelle felt the ache that arrives with relief, a paradox she could finally hold. Then the invitation, embossed, unambiguous. A global summit on linguistic unity and digital ethics wanted Noelle as keynote. Me? She asked Hassan. Exactly you, he said. Not as myth, exactly as you are. Fear fluttered. What if I freeze? Then you'll thaw, he grinned. Courage, remember, likes company. Lila slid a folder across a cafe table. Plans for the Noelle Brooks Foundation for Linguistic Empowerment. Training in hospitality language, scholarships, community partnerships. Operations needs a compass, Lila said. I can run it. Will you steer the star? The mock solemnity broke into smiles. Some dreams arrive with blueprints. The day of the keynote, winter sky polished the city. Backstage, Noelle fidgeted with her lapel. Hassan squeezed her shoulder. Lila handed water. Clara mouthed, heart first. When called, Noelle stepped into the hall's sea of faces and began. 9 greetings, 9 doors opening. The room's posture subtly softening. She spoke of Andre, of bridges over toll booths, of her father's belief that technology should carry empathy, not extract it. In Mandarin, she nodded to unity. In Arabic, to hospitality. In French, to solidarity. In Swahili, to community. Languages turned into mirrors, each listener briefly seeing themselves reflected. I didn't expose Edmund for revenge, she said. I did it so my father's voice wouldn't be erased, and because silence makes us accomplices. Applause didn't burst, it gathered, then it rose, standing, sustained, grateful rather than gleeful. Noelle bowed her head, not to the crowd but to the work ahead. Requests followed. Programs in Nairobi, pilot in Tokyo, curriculum in Sao Paulo. Noelle accepted selectively, insisting local leadership, cultural humility, open access. The foundation's site went live, modest and clear. Donations trickled, then streamed. Lila hired translators, built schedules, fixed printers. Clara documented the how, not just the why. Classes began without walls, grids of faces across continents, learning to carry meaning without flattening it. Noelle's syllabi braided idiom and context, policy, and poetry. A Moroccan folktale found its echo in a Brazilian proverb. Students laughed when equivalence surprised them. Connection tasted like discovery and sounded like relief. Months passed. One afternoon, reception whispered, "Edmund Langford." Noelle nearly said no, then chose the braver yes. He looked smaller, wealth worn thin, contrition unpracticed. "I don't deserve forgiveness," he said. "I wanted to see what you built." She gestured to a chair. Penitence, she decided, is proven by verbs. "I was afraid of being ordinary," he said. "So I stole brilliance and called it vision." He donated what remained, not to her foundation, to peers, under his mother's name. "It's not enough," he admitted. "I know. It's a beginning," Noelle said. "Beginnings demand consistency. Make better your habit." That night, she visited the reopened restaurant, Brooks Hall, stitched in brushed metal above the door. Inside, a mural, children holding books that lit with scripts. At center, Andre at a UN desk, headphones on, eyes kind. Noelle stood under painted light and let being seen feel ordinary. Back home, she finished the paper she'd abandoned. Language as a Bridge of Empathy. It landed in a respected journal, then became the Foundation's manifesto. Guidelines for ethical language tech. 10 principles to anchor shiny things to human needs. She recorded a message for Andre. "We did it, Dad." Headquarters were humble, Queen's community rooms with maps and taped-up photos. A message popped. A student admitted to Columbia on scholarship, another hired at a clinic translating discharge instructions. Hassan wrote, "Impact headlines." Noelle smiled. Headlines decay. Impact composts into futures. She pinned the note above her desk. She taught in the Bronx, introductory Mandarin to recent arrivals. A young woman lingered after class. "I'm starting college because now I can speak for myself." Noelle hugged her. Fluent or halting, every voice mattered. Outside, languages braided down blocks. Spanish at bodegas, Arabic joking in clusters, Russian murmuring steadfastly. A parcel, Clara's book, Voices That Bridge. Dedication. For Andre, a window not a wall. For Noelle, who opened it wider. Noelle traced the letters, feeling the precise weight of gratitude. She wrote back, "Most important lines on page 1, listening precedes speaking. You honored that, always." Media cycles moved on. The work didn't. Noelle built rubrics for context fidelity, wrote a grant favoring community interpreters over outsourced automation, argued that accuracy without empathy is a different kind of error. She slept better when metrics measured dignity alongside speed. Numbers can learn new manners. A letter arrived from the UN. Formal recognition of Andre Brooks as primary author of LB 2047, Ethics Appendix, restored to the official record. Noelle reread the line that mattered. Restored. Not granted, not bestowed, restored. She printed it and taped it beside a photo of Andre laughing mid-sentence. She met a class under a tree via video, Kenya at dusk. A student described translating at a clinic where a grandmother finally understood her medication. "You didn't just find words," Noelle said. "You delivered safety." The student beamed. "Some victories are quiet on purpose, so the people can be loud." Edmund sent a letter, not a press release. Apology without hedges, acknowledgement without excuses. Noelle filed it, neither posting nor burning it. Forgiveness, she told her students later, isn't erasure. It's choosing not to let the harm define you. They nodded, and someone translated it beautifully 3 different ways. Invitations multiplied. She said yes to what extended bridges, no to what erected branded toll gates. The foundation partnered with libraries, shelters, clinics. Lila kept budgets clean, Clara kept stories honest. Hassan kept Noelle grounded enough to say, "I don't know," then learn publicly and on purpose. On a quiet Sunday, Noelle visited Andre's grave. She read him a paragraph from her manifesto and a joke he would have loved. Wind lifted the program list in her hand. She weighed it down with a pebble. "Leadership isn't being perfect," she said aloud. "It's being present." Back at her desk, she wrote 9 greetings on a sticky note and pressed it to her monitor. Every hello is a chance, she'd tell new teachers. A chance not to flatten someone. The staff adopted the line. It appeared on whiteboards and, later, embossed on scholarship certificates. A city council asked her to advise on multilingual emergency notifications. She pushed for community testers, back translation, audio alongside text. When the system rolled out, an elder called a hotline and got instructions in her dialect. Clear, respectful, actionable. This, Noelle said to Lila, is how policy starts listening. At Brooks Hall's reopening night, the pianist paused mid-song and segued into something Andre used to hum. Noelle caught Lila's eye. You planned that, she mouthed. Lila shook her head. No, but yes. The kitchen sent out a staff meal with extra greens. Someone toasted. To bridges, not tolls. Noelle drafted a curriculum unit titled Grace Under Pressure, built around the night of the challenge. De-escalation, dignity, on-mic poise, off-mic breathwork. Students practiced saying hard truths at conversational volume. Showmanship burns out, she taught. Steadiness scales. The lesson plan became quietly popular across continents. On a late train, Noelle reread Andre's margin note. Begin where they are. She underlined it twice. In the reflection, she saw the invisible server she'd been and the teacher she'd become occupying the same seat. Both are me, she thought. Both taught me how to listen. Clara's follow-up article centered on outcomes, a clinic's translation queue dropping, workers reporting fewer miscommunications, teens bragging about helping parents at appointments. The piece ended with a small truth. Impact looks like fewer crises. Noelle clipped it. Page 9 lived on her wall beside the restoration letter. A donor offered a breathtaking check, conditional on naming rights. Noelle declined gently. Names matter, she said. This name already belongs to someone. They split the gift, half unrestricted, half for scholarships, named by the students themselves, honoring grandmothers, midwives, bus drivers. Generosity, she learned, can be taught manners too. Hassan proposed a research cohort, students co-authoring papers on community translation outcomes. Noelle insisted they get lead credit. When the journal accepted, she watched their names print top line. She texted a photo to Andre's number out of habit. The message failed, of course, but the sending still felt right. An ethics panel invited Edmund to debate Noelle. He declined. Good, she thought. This isn't theater. Instead, she sent the panel a checklist any vendor could adopt. Transparency, community oversight, exit ramps if harm emerges. They published it as an appendix. Practical tools, she'd learned, outlive applause. A quiet evening, she re-watched the old clip, herself steady, Edmund unraveling. She paused, not on his rage, but on her breath before answering. That inhale contained everything. Fear, lineage, decision. She closed the laptop and wrote on a card, "Breathe like you mean it." She taped it near her door. Brooks Hall's mural gained new figures. Former staff painted holding menus in many languages. A small plaque read, "Respect is what we carry." Tourists photographed it. Regulars sat a little straighter. Noelle ordered the soup and tipped like a sermon. Hospitality, honored, can be its own fluent language. A citywide blackout struck. The foundation's WhatsApp trees ignited, volunteer interpreters dispatching to shelters and clinics. Noelle coordinated by headlamp, logging needs, matching dialects to neighborhoods. Later, a nurse wrote, "We didn't guess. We understood." Noelle saved it under proof. Emergency made their thesis plain in the dark. Months into momentum, a small exhaustion coiled. Noelle scheduled rest into calendars like meetings, insisted staff do the same. "Burnout is how the bad guys win," she joked. Then corrected herself. No joke. Sabbaticals became policy. Relief funds covered them. Sustainable courage requires sustainable bodies and ordinary afternoons. A teenager asked during Q&A, "How do I speak up without becoming the story?" Noelle answered, "By making the work the headline and yourself the byline, by collecting receipts, by sharing credit on purpose." The teen nodded, relief visible. Blueprint gifted, she hoped, before their first earthquake arrived. A museum asked to feature Andre's notebooks alongside the mural's sketches. Noelle negotiated. Context panels would foreground communities served, not donors. The exhibit drew crowds who lingered at a listening station titled "Translation as Care." People cried there, she heard. She did too, alone, when the gallery closed. On a bench outside, she dialed her mother. "I'm tired," she confessed. "Good," her mother said. "You're not a statue. Statues chip, people nap." They laughed until the tiredness loosened. Noelle walked home through streets speaking 100 languages, everyone a lantern swinging between strangers. At semester's end, students presented capstones, apps built with community councils, hotline scripts reworded for dignity, signage that explained without scolding. Certificates bore the foundation seal and the sticky note line, "Every hello is a chance." Noelle shook hands, hugged, mispronounced names, corrected herself, and kept learning out loud. A policymaker asked for a soundbite. Noelle delivered a paragraph. Accuracy without empathy miscommunicates differently. Build systems that listen before they speak. It aired uncut, the rare mercy. Emails arrived from unexpected offices. Sometimes power is ready to change and just needs language for the hinge. Edmund sent a second letter. No ask, only updates. Therapy ongoing. Volunteer work quiet. An apology to a founder he'd wronged. Noelle wrote back one sentence. Consistency is confession's proof. She hoped he understood. Redemption, like fluency, is practice. 1,000 small, correct repetitions, not one grand performance. A class debated machine translation. Noelle drew 2 columns, speed, scale on one, consent, context on the other. Which side wins? A student asked. Neither, she said. They balance if we choose to hold both. They left with wrists inked in pen. Hold both. A wearable assignment. In spring, the foundation moved into a brighter space. Windows opened. Plants remembered sunlight. A handwritten sign by the door read, "Come as you are. Leave with more language for yourself." Noelle tucked a fresh marker beside it. People added courage, patience, boundaries. The door stayed very busy. Clara visited with a dog-eared copy of her book, now in classrooms. "Kids love the part where you refuse the check," she said. "They say it's the coolest no ever printed." Noelle laughed. "They should see my inbox. Most no's are boring emails." Boring, in its way, is protective. A grant review board asked how success would be measured. By fewer crises, shorter lines, clearer eyes, Noelle wrote. By the ease of saying, "I understand," in your own words. They funded 3 years. Metrics learned to count softness. She framed the letter, not the money, the shift inside it. On a humid night, thunder crawling, she opened Andre's recorder. "Dad, we built the bridge," she said. "People cross it every day." Rain began, loud enough to drown everything else. She let it. Some answers you don't need to hear, some you feel through a Windows drum. The mural gained another layer, tiny windows painted into the book's light. People posted photos captioned, "Language is a window." Noelle thought of the first line she'd said on stage, and how it kept finding her back. She smiled, set down her phone, and washed a sink full of dishes. A refugee father told her, "My son translates for me. Today, I translated for him." Noelle wrote it on a sticky note and kept it in her wallet. When meetings dragged toward spin, she read it, then asked better questions. Anchors don't have to be heavy. Just true. She audited a night class in ASL, hands relearning beginner humility. Her teacher signed, "Again, kindly." Noelle laughed silently, againing with gratitude. Fluency, she remembered, is a series of practiced forgivenesses, of yourself, of others, of yesterday's stiff tongue. Progress looked like a shaky sentence, understood anyway. At a conference, someone asked for her secret. "I didn't say no to being ordinary," she answered. "I said no to being invisible." The room hummed. A translator rendered it in 3 languages. Each sounded slightly different, each meant the same. She wrote it down for later use. A child at Brooks Hall pointed to Andre's portrait. "Is he famous?" Noelle crouched. "He used words to help people understand each other." The kid considered. "That's better than famous." Noelle swallowed a laugh-tear hybrid. "Exactly," she said. The child ran back to lasagna. Fame lost decisively to noodles. Grant auditors visited. Lila's spreadsheets purred, processes clicked. "You make compliance look kind," one said. "Kindness is efficient," Lila replied, stone serious. Afterward, Noelle hugged her in the alley, both laughing. Competence can be a love language, too. They returned inside, where someone had burned the garlic just slightly. A journalist asked what she'd tell past Noelle. "Breathe," she said. "Practice saying the hard sentence softly. Collect your proof. Call your mother sooner. And remember, Bridges are built plank by plank. The piece ran with a photo of her hands, not her face, resting on a stack of notebooks. She scheduled a day off, and actually took it. Library, park bench, long walk. Outside a bookstore, a teen recognized her and blurted, "You made me believe language class mattered." Noelle grinned. "It does, especially on days you hate it." They laughed. She bought them both popsicles. Small syllabus, sweet lesson. Late email. UN committee formally credits Andre Brooks as primary author. Ethics appendix reinstated. Noelle printed it again, even though she already had. She mailed copies to 3 of his old colleagues, with handwritten notes. Grief stayed, but changed shape. Less boulder, more river rock you carry in pocket. At semester's close, the foundation hosted an open mic. Poems in Somali, jokes in Spanish, lullabies in Vietnamese. Noelle read a paragraph from her paper about empathy as practice. Applause came soft and real. Later, washing cups, she hummed the pianist's tune and didn't notice she was smiling. From time to time, Edmund sent quiet updates, no signature flourish, just proof of life changes. Noelle replied rarely, on purpose. "Keep going" was enough. Not every story needs a neat bow. Some need a decent compass and a map of hazards so fewer people make the same wrong turns. On a bus, 2 strangers argued across languages. Noelle almost intervened, then watched a teen step in and translate both ways until shoulders dropped. She texted Lila, "We're scaling." Lila sent back a confetti emoji and a photo of the pantry, overstocked with tea, underscoring a permanent preparedness. A city plaque appeared outside Brooks Hall, recognizing civic contributions to language equity. Noelle accepted with everyone behind her on the steps. Dishwashers, hosts, bussers, line cooks. "We built this," she said into the mic. The crowd's cheer felt like a translation finally rendered correctly and widely understood. She revised the manifesto's appendix. When to pause a translation. Sometimes accuracy demands stopping. When a story isn't yours, when consent is unclear, when speed is weaponized. The page traveled farther than expected, photocopied in clinics and courts. Restraint, she found, can be the most ethical sentence available. An email signed only, "A former investor," read, "We should have asked better questions. We will now." Noelle forwarded it to Clara with, "Frame change, not credit." Clara replied with a heart and a deadline. The work marched. Articles, classes, policy drafts, each step ordinary, each step necessary. Brooks Hall hosted a scholarship dinner, menus bilingual, speeches brief. Noelle's mother toasted, voice steady. "To those who listen so well that others risk becoming heard." The room answered with clinking glass and laughter. Noelle caught Hassan dabbing at an eye. He blamed the onions. Nobody believed him. When the lights were off and chairs were up, Noelle lingered by the mural. She whispered 9 good nights and 1 thank you, to the room, to the work, to the past that taught her how. Outside, the city conversed with itself, sirens and scooters and slang sinking into something like music. At home, she opened Andre's notebook, wrote in careful strokes, "Truth connects, lies divide." Below, in English. "And speaking truth, even when costly, is a form of care." She added a date, "Ritual matters. It bins mornings from nights and keeps courage filed where you can reach it." Walking to the train, she overheard Arabic, a couple searching for a restaurant. She offered help in their language. Faces brightened. "Your Arabic is beautiful," they said. "My father taught me," she answered. He believed language is our most generous tool. They nodded, already carrying the sentence onward. 3 months later, the UN summit returned, this time with panels led by Noelle's students. She sat in the audience, clapped until her hands stung. Being eclipsed by the people you trained is a rare light. Warm, deserved, generous. Andre would have loved this eclipse. She loved it for him. She began every cohort with a quiet question. "Who taught you your favorite word?" The answers turned classrooms into kitchens, sidewalks, and lullabies. Pedagogy expanded to include grandmothers and bus drivers as co-authors. The foundation's wall filled with those names, a hall of fame, alphabetized by gratitude. When asked to summarize, she said, "We translate people to one another, not just words." Someone printed it on t-shirts. She preferred it on sticky notes. Movements survive in office supplies, cheap, replaceable, everywhere. She smiled, stuck another note to a colleague's monitor. Drink water, then translate. A reunion formed at Brooks Hall. Former staff returned, now managers elsewhere, teachers, nurses. They swapped stories, moments they'd been invisible and chose otherwise. Noelle listened more than she spoke. Facilitating is fluency that sounds like silence. At evening's end, they stacked chairs together, without discussing it. The board reviewed the year. Balanced books, wider reach, fewer crises reported by partner clinics. We need more outlets uptown, Lila said, already drafting logistics. Yes, Noelle nodded. Scale can be ethical if it keeps listening. They adjourned early. Someone ordered noodles. Decisions tasted like sesame. Late night, streetlight haloed her desk. She wrote the closing paragraph of a grant. Bridges are measured by crossings. She pictured faces, a grandmother, a teenager, a nurse, and signed her name. Not Naomi, not a myth, simply Noelle Brooks, daughter, teacher, listener. The cursor blinked like a quiet metronome. Before bed, she recorded a message on Andre's old device. When you speak with love, the whole world understands. She repeated it in 9 languages, slower than perfect, better than polished. She laughed at one fumbled consonant, kept it anyway. Perfection persuades no one. Honesty travels farther. In the mirror, she saw both past and present. The server invisible by design and the advocate visible by necessity. Both built this, she told her reflection. Both belong. Outside, horns translated urgency, footsteps translated purpose. And the city's chorus kept time with a workable kind of hope. She wrote one last sticky note and pressed it to the door. Every hello is a chance. Tomorrow she'd forget and remember and forget again. That, too, was practice. She turned off the lights, the mural still bright behind her eyelids, a portable window she'd learned to carry. And to anyone listening, she'd ask the same question that started everything. If someone mocked your existence and stole your father's work, would you risk speaking anyway? Ordinary courage, she'd learned, isn't loud. It's cumulative. It becomes us. It becomes bridges. It becomes the only road home. If this moved you, say so and stay. There are more stories where people refuse silence, more windows to open. Subscribe, share, volunteer, learn a new hello. We'll keep doing the work, plank by plank, word by word, until understanding is the easiest language we speak. Lesson 1. Dignity doesn't retire. Many of us remember when a person's word was a contract, and a handshake meant something. Noelle's calm answer to a public dare reminds us, humiliation only works if you bow to it. She stood straight, served in flawless Mandarin, and kept her self-respect. Proof that quiet dignity can outlast a billionaire's spotlight. Lesson 2. Receipts beat rumors. We've lived long enough to know memory fades, but paperwork doesn't. Noelle gathered drafts, audio, dates, then let the facts speak. When power tried to buy her silence, she chose documentation over a quick check. That's an old American lesson. Keep records, tell the truth, and let daylight do the heavy lifting. Lesson 3. Build bridges, not toll booths. Her father taught that language should connect people. Noelle carried that forward, turning fluency into safety at tables, clinics, and finally the public square. Change didn't arrive with a drumroll. It arrived with steady service, community allies, and ethics restored to the blueprint. That's how legacies are honored in this country. Friends, if this story stirred something in you, I want to hear it. Have you ever faced a moment where staying silent felt safer, but speaking up felt right? What receipts or life lessons helped you stand your ground? Old letters, careful notes, a mentor's voice? Share your experience in the comments so others can learn from it. Please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss the next chapter. If you know someone who loves true stories about courage, dignity, and justice, pass this along. We're building a community, one voice at a time.